university town.
Yeah, that's right.
That's great.
So, listen, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the file that I sent over with markings on the first 10 pages or so.
Yes, I was looking at it. Yes.
Yeah, and what I feel is that you don't have a clear aim and focus and structure and logic to what are you saying there in that chapter. I'm looking now at at your outline, your draft outline that had my comments on it. It's a different file. If you want, I could send it over. But my comment on chapter 3, which is what we're talking about, is I said this section argues biblically and in other ways that the family is key to producing disciples. After presenting this from scripture and church documents, you will want some examples, written materials, and your pastoral observations. So both published materials and any personal observations or experiences about the good fruit of families in producing joyful missionary disciples. So basically the key point of this section, I think, is, after saying that the key lies in the kerygma, which is chapter 2, you're saying, and the key lies in the family. So that's your basic argument. Keys in the kerygma, keys in the family, and then your final section is strategies, practical. How do we make this practical? Focusing on kerygma, focusing on family. How do we do that? So this third chapter is kind of analogous to the second chapter, which is arguing that, on a theological basis, the power of the gospel. Well, so it seems to me that your chapter 3 is arguing, is making a presentation, and it should say that in the opening paragraph, on the basis of scripture and theology and church teaching and human experience or something, that the family is key to producing disciples. I think that points like, that the Holy Family provides us with a good example, or that St. Joseph provides us with a model for fathers, needs to come in sort of later, after you've made, to kind of be confirming of your point that the family is key to producing disciples. First you've got to say, that's the point I'm going to make. This chapter is going to argue that the family is key to making disciples. And then you present your proofs, from scripture, from church documents. Maybe start with church documents and on the family, or any other sources you have that, books or articles that make the point, that sort of argue on the priority of focusing on family for the sake of resisting the lies of the culture and secularism and all the things you spoke about in the introduction. Right? See, because what we're trying to say is the priority is family if we want to resist these negative trends, and if we want to build the positive thing of missionary disciples. So you need a kind of argument about that. And then I think you can bring in points about, that a focusing on, in preaching and pastoral ministry, on the Holy Family is valuable because of their similarities in situation to the Hispanic situation. And fathers are important. So St. Joseph is a good model for fathers. Mm-hmm. And mothers are important. And the Blessed Mother is therefore a great resource there. And then then you can bring in friendships are important, but now when you get into friendships, you're actually moving out of family. So I'm not sure if that point isn't extraneous. I think maybe it is extraneous. Now, I'm not saying you can't bring it in, but I'm just saying it doesn't really fall under the heading exactly of the family as the source of or as the kind of priority for countering the negative trends and establishing missionary disciples. Likewise, the point about the saints. Those points are, I don't say that they're not valid, but they don't fall under the heading of the argument that the family is the primary basis, which seems to me the heart of your argument. Now, maybe you could add
Dr. Williamson, forgive me for interrupting you. Maybe if I'm finding that I might need to cut some things, those could be the ones that I can cut.
Yeah, I think so. Keep it cleaner, keep the logic tighter. But I don't feel that the logic of the third chapter works as I read it. I'm just saying, no, I think you lost a little sight of what the goal was. Because, and I do think that I give you what I think articulates what I believe your goal is, which is in chapter 3 and you can see it in my notes on your outline.
Yeah, I have it in front of me. I got it in front of me. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
So that the section argues biblically and other ways that the family is key to producing disciples. So the priority of the family. And then I think you can say, in service of the family, the example of the Holy Family and the example of the of Saint Joseph for fathers, are kind of points in Scripture and tradition that hold a lot of potential for supporting, for reinforcing the priority of the family, and for giving insight into into God's vision for the family. Mm-hmm. So I just think that you need a tighter argument, and that's what I would say is tighten it up quite a bit and get the logic clear, and I'd say start with what your overall arguments are, and then you can bring in the illustrations of the Holy Family and Justice. So those are, now when you move to Christ being a model for joyful missionary disciples, that's also introducing a different idea than the chapter's about.
Yeah. I might need to reformat the outline with your thoughts and insights a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I think you're going to just have to go back and sort of redo this chapter, mm-hmm. and I said, working out in your own mind what the clear logic is. If you can make a very strict outline that sort of shows it's an argument outline. What I mean to say is it doesn't just list topics, but it says in a sentence what you're proving or showing, or in each section. That mm-hmm. would that might help you. A kind of thesis, basically a thesis statement for all the paragraphs in that section.
Correct.
That
mm-hmm.
That sort of makes clear what are you really saying here?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great. I'm sorry because I know you put a lot of work into it, but sometimes when we put a lot of work into something, when we go back, we say, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I had a lot of good ideas, but they weren't well put together, and I kind of feel like it has to be redone.
No, and actually, I'm learning. I'm learning this process of writing thesis. This is an interesting process. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Well, you're doing a good job. I admire your stick-to-itiveness and your productivity. And may God bless you as you kind of think this thing through and argue it more clearly. Okay.
But thank you very much for directing me, and definitely I took notes on everything you said, and
Okay,
I
great.
do I will stick to your indications and the original outline, which I have in
Okay,
front
great.
of me.
So it may well be that this section will be considerably shorter, and that would not be bad.
No, no,
If you
no.
can,
Correct.
the key thing is tight logic. That you're proving something, you're showing something.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And just to make a few comments on chapter 4, what I'm doing is taking a different approach. Is I do a signpost without saying it's a signpost, and then develop a little bit of the body, and then do a pastoral strategy and split it into 3 practical steps. That's what I did for the first part of the strategy. But I'll try to keep focus and succinct, and so that
Yes.
when you see it, you can offer me your comments.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think boiling it down to sort of 3 pastoral steps or something like that is a good idea, and it gives. And then you want to be careful to avoid bringing in extraneous ideas. You want to try to keep the lines of your argument as clear and focused as possible. Trying to sort of say, what are the 3 main, or however many, it doesn't have to be 3. You can increase the number if it seems good to do that. But what are the main things I would want to say to fellow priests in what the strategy is to, in light of the fact that the gospel, the power of the gospel of the charisma, the gospel is primary, in light of the fact that the family is the place where the most important stuff happens for the formation of the Catholics of the future. What is the strategy? How do we leverage those 2 facts? The charisma and the family.
Very well.
Great.
Okay.
Are there any other questions you want to ask?
No, and not at this moment. I received a lot already from you in this conversation. But if something comes up, I will email you.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good talking to you, Father Jaime. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye.